Hello, I'm Jackie Scott for the Axe Television Network, and I'm here with Kenny Foster, and this is kind of our maiden voyage on what is going to be his program, Growing Up in the Outdoors. So that begs the question, Kenny. I know you've been hunting and fishing for a long time. What is your first memory of going out fishing or hunting?
My first memory is probably fishing with my Uncle Orville. I was 7 years old, had never been on a lake or pond or anything. I'd hear all these people talking about fishing. I had a neighbor and everything who actually fished with Harold Inslee, and he'd always tried to get me to go fishing, but I was scared to death of a boat. I was scared to death of water at the time. And my Uncle Orville came in from California and he goes, "We're going fishing." Took me out, and he was trot lining. He was catching catfish that was bigger than me, and I got hooked from that point on. So he started giving me baits and everything else, and I still have those baits today. I've got them in a display case. I won't fish them, I refuse to, but my fondest memory is 7 years old, going fishing for the first time with him, and that's how I got started.
So he may have hooked a big catfish that day, but I think he hooked more than a fish. It sounds like he hooked you as well.
He hooked a 7-year-old kid.
And you have sons. When did you start taking them hunting and fishing?
Started taking them fishing and everything when they were young. I was gone a lot racing, so it was probably, I think they were probably 5 or 6 years old before I really got to take them fishing for the first time. Neither one really seemed to be interested in it at all. I'd sit and watch fishing shows when I was in, and they'd nothing to do with it. Took them perch jerking, I called it, and everything, down a little creek that was nearby our home, and I don't know, they've both been hooked on fishing ever since too.
Well, sometimes seeing somebody doing it, and this is one discussion we've had even about your upcoming series. Sometimes some of the professional fishermen, they're doing a lot of the fishing. There's so much technical information.
Yes.
And for kids especially, they get bored.
Yes.
You know, they want to put something on the hook, they want to get it in the water, and they want to get a fish.
That's right.
And that to them is fishing, and all this other stuff, once they get hooked on fishing, they'll be interested in, but probably not initially.
No, the best way to get them started is just take them everything with just a plain ordinary rod and reel, Zebco 202 or Zebco 33, or even a cane pole, and take them out and everything with just worms, and take them perch fishing, bluegill fishing, and get them started that way. There's so much stuff, and if you looked at my garage and my shop, it's hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of tackle, and trying to figure out what bait you would use if you were a child, it'd blow your mind. There's no way you'd figure it out. You'd get bored and you'd go off and want to do something else.
Okay, now what about the mom or dad, and there's a lot of single moms today that, you know, have a child that they see, okay, there's a positive with spending time with them, with fishing, they'd like to get into it, but they didn't grow up in the outdoors. They didn't grow up fishing. What advice would you give to them?
There is guides on the lake. There's boat dock operators that pretty much know what's going on, everything on the water. You can pick up the phone and call them, and they're more than happy to explain to you everything, what to do, how to get them started, how to take them fishing. But the Conservation Department has a program for families and for the youth to help them get started, help them get going, and they really promote family-oriented things like that, like hunting or fishing. But Francis Kowinski has done a show with us, and it was on one of the Back to Nature shows. And Francis talked about the program and everything the Conservation Department has of getting families involved in the sport. So there's lots of avenues out there to get going.
And it's a sport that whether you weigh 90 pounds soaking wet or 300 pounds, it's a sport that you can pretty well do.
It doesn't matter who you are, what your age is, what your background is, you can go fishing.
And one thing, Axe Media and Axe Television is very involved with promoting issues for autism, and we're even working to get some fishing going and introduce it to some autistic kids. And I know some of the autistic kids who have participated, it's been a really great sport for them, but it's not just limited to autism. There's a lot of kids with different physical and other challenges, a lot of special needs kids that this would be a good fit for.
Be a perfect fit. It's relaxing, it's rewarding, it's enjoying. It doesn't matter if you get kids with autism or you get kids that are handicapped, that are on wheelchairs. There is all kinds of avenues. We have the upcoming tournament for autistic children up at Longview Lake at Lee's Summit. And I was noticing when we were up there and everything on the docks, looking this facility over, it's all handicap ramps. So it doesn't matter and everything, like if the child's in a wheelchair, you can get there. They have accessibility throughout all of the parks and everything for them to be able to go and be on the water. Everybody wants everybody to be able to come out and fish and enjoy the outdoors.
Now, we saved just a few minutes to talk about hunting. Now, with the gun control issues and everything, there's some people that are just a little apprehensive about putting a firearm, particularly in a child's hand. What do you say to those people?
I'm gonna make a bold statement. It's not guns that kill people, it's people that kill people. If you teach your child how to properly handle a firearm, you don't have any issues. Don't let them go out and learn it from their neighbor or their neighbor's kid when his family is gone, how to handle a firearm, because you're not going to have a good outcome. I've taught both of my boys how to handle a firearm when they were very, very young. They stay in the case, they stay locked up, the ammunition stays in a separate location, and to this date, I don't think I've ever had anybody come in my home, one of their friends and everything, that they pulled out anything out and wanted to show them. Tanner took a young man that he had his father for a teacher in school. The teacher's son had never been fishing or never been hunting. Grandpa, 30-30, wanted to hand down to his grandson, wouldn't do it. He wouldn't take his grandson out and teach him how to shoot. Still didn't think he was old enough. The young man wanted to go deer hunting with Tanner. Tanner goes, well, you're going to go out and learn to shoot. So Tanner took him to Music to the rifle range, and they shot. Grandpa came and sat and watched. They went through a couple of evenings of doing this, went through several boxes of shells. Grandpa handed the 30-30 down to the grandson. My son took him and everything out deer hunting for the youth the very first day, and he got his deer. Well, Grandpa ended up balling, grandson ended up balling, father ended up balling, because they had waited all this time and not taught him how at a very early age how to handle a firearm. He now is helping other kids and everything younger than him. Tanner still wants to mentor a youth every year. But if you teach them early on, safety is number one. Conservation Department will tell you, safety in firearms is number one.
And there are so many courses, safety courses, that are available. I mean, you don't have to search hard to find a good firearms course.
No, the Conservation Department teaches all the time. There's Tanner is getting ready to, I think, to go into a group and everything and be taught how to go in and do firearms instruction and everything. And they even have a program where you can go in the schools. They don't take a rifle in the school, but they have a mock rifle that they take in everything and use for that instructor's course. So they can actually go to the school and do the instructor's course for kids there if the schools will allow it. And some of the schools are starting to allow that.
And again, that goes back to the parents being interested in approaching their school and saying, is this something that the school would be interested in?
Exactly. You have all the concern about school shootings. Have you educated those kids? And I'll guarantee you 100% of the time it's no. They've not been.
So We've got just a few minutes here. Tell me, actually 2 minutes here, tell me in 2 minutes or less, what you think the most positive impact with your kids was in growing up in the outdoors?
Oh, wow. They've learned to respect the outdoors. They've learned to respect wildlife. We have a program on our farm at Cape Fear that we actually work to bring wildlife in. We've got the quail population started back on our farm. We've got the rabbit population started back on our farm, and they were pretty much gone. So teaching them and everything and being mentors with them and teaching them to be mentors for other kids and everything growing up, that's probably been the most rewarding thing out of all of it, and probably been the most bonding thing I've had with my 2 boys.
Well, thank you, Kenny, and we're excited to have you start this program. I think it's going to be something that's going to not only be popular, but I think it's going to be extremely valuable for our families to learn more about things that they can do in the outdoors. And I should say, we're not always just going to be sitting here like this. You're going to be out there, you're going to be showing them things. It's going to be a lot of fun.
We have a lot more than just the hunting, fishing, and racing that we're going to bring to the show.
Well, thank you very much, Kenny. I'm Jackie Scott for Axe Radio Network.